Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Book Talk with Cara. Today, I am so excited to have my friend Janyre Tromp on with me again. And we are going to talk about some of your new books that you have coming out. But before we start talking about your Scorpion book, do you want to take just a moment to update us on what you've been up to?
Oh my gosh, all the things. So I think most everybody knows that like my day job, I'm a book editor. So I'm out on my own freelancing and absolutely having a complete and total ball with that. It gives me a lot of flexibility, both in what I'm working on, but also my schedule, which when you're in that little sandwich generation is kind of nice. So I have teenagers and then helping my mom too. So that my normal life is a little hectic, so that gives me some flexibility. But I am so excited. I have so much coming in the next like 18 months. I just published a little novella in December, and that's this one, Guardian of the Red Desert. And this is kind of like the key to the whole story, the whole series. So this has Easter eggs for every book in the series. And it's free if you want to go, not the paperback, but the ebook. So on my website, you guys can grab a free copy of that. And I'm so excited.
Yeah. And this series that you're launching with The Guardian of the Red Desert is something you have been talking about for several years. Just this idea of there are all these cool myths and ideas out really kind of in the Middle East region. What kind of birthed this love of that location, these stories in you that made you go, I have to write books set in this area?
Right. So actually if you look at my bookshelves, like right here, those blue books right there and through there, those are all myths. And actually there's some over here. And so those were mine when I was like 10 or 12. So these are books, these are something that I have always been fascinated with myths, and not just the Greek and Roman myths, which a lot of people are semi-familiar with, but Egyptian and Celtic and all Slavic, all of these myths. And there are so many similarities between the different myths, and how they come out. And I'm a total nerd. Everybody knows I'm a nerd. And I embrace that fully. So I have been having this grand time taking these wackadoodly, super cool historical nuggets and weaving them into these myths that are just incredible, and finding these parallels. And as we work back toward, I call it the series is called The Threads of the Lost Myth. And just the idea that there is this lost myth that everything else comes out of. And so just having fun playing with that. And the series actually, so Guardian of the Red Desert is the beginning. So it's the earliest time frame. And then Scorpion Thief, which is the next one that comes out, which is this one with my tags for quotes for
I
you
love
guys.
that.
But Scorpion Thief actually takes place in 1976 and 1977. So the whole series works backward in time to find the lost myth.
I love it. And so you've got the scorpion myth is the one that's
Mhm.
getting ready to come out.
Yep, this one.
Why scorpions? Because I think scorpions, yuck. And you've
Yeah,
got the scorpion thief.
right, right. So on the surface, this is really, really, really literal. This is it. There's someone trying to steal part of the King Tut exhibit. Um, And one of the main statues in that exhibition that came to the United States in the 1970s was this goddess named Selket. And Selket is the scorpion goddess. So there's on the surface, there's this very literal, somebody is trying to steal the scorpion. But underneath, it's like this descriptor of the hidden, striking nature of a scorpion. There's a lot of things going on under the surface. Nobody is quite who they seem. And you're not sure how it's all going to shake out. And the premise of the book is basically that you have these two sisters. One is the protector of the exhibit. So she's an Egyptologist, she's a curator with the Metropolitan in New York City. And the other sister is being blackmailed into stealing the artifacts. And so they're automatically set up against one another. And there's all kinds of crazy history behind this book. and the premise too. So I'm just super excited about everything that happens in this book. So
Well, and I can remember like 3, 4 years ago, I mean, it was still kind of COVID lockdown, and we're at this small writers retreat, brainstorming retreat, and you talking about it and me going, I had no idea. So it is so fun to see this book coming to life, and now readers are going to get to experience it. And so I mean, there's so much going on. There's the theft and everything happening. Did you have to, how did you do the research for that?
well, that I'm gonna use another one. Do you see that big fat red binder?
Hmm.
That actually is a binder and it's packed full. So half this book takes place in Cairo, Egypt, and the other half takes place in New Orleans, Louisiana, in NOLA. And so that binder is full of documents that the New Orleans Museum of Art sent me that were historical documentation from the tour during this time period. So this whole book started, I have to tell you this story. It's really kind of bizarre. So a lot of people are like, how do you come up with these ideas, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. So I love history. So I subscribe to a lot of historical like emails from random places, and I think it was National Geographic sent this email basically that says the 1970s King Tut tour was a political manipulation of the American public. And I was like, say what now? And it was. It totally was a manipulation of the American public. And that's how it got started was Nixon was trying to manipulate the Americans into thinking that Egypt was worthy of being an ally, because up until that point they were not. They were very, it was the Americans and the Egyptians were very antagonistic toward one another. And there's a whole bunch of stuff underneath that too. But I was like, this is super cool. So I started doing some research about the tour itself and trying to come up with, these characters. And the Egyptologist was my first character. And I'm like, oh, she would be fantastic. But, what do I do with her?
Yeah.
Then I started reading, and true story, the security system started failing in the United States, in Chicago. So there was 5, I think, stops, and the second stop was Chicago. It started failing in Chicago. It hit New Orleans and was completely abysmally absolute failure in New Orleans, right? So I'm like, oh, somebody's going to try and steal it. And who's going to steal it? And then I found out during the same time period that the communist organizations in the United States were bombing American targets 1,000 times a year.
Oh my gosh.
And how they were funding it was they were stealing artifacts and museum art,
Oh, that's perfect.
right?
So perfect.
So I have one sister who's an Egyptian curator, and one sister who has been drawn into the Communist Party and is tasked with stealing the artifacts that are under her sister's care in order to fund bombings in the US. And that's
Which,
like, it's all history. Like, I didn't have to, I didn't, they served it to me on a silver platter.
and it's stuff that most of us are not aware of. It's
No
part of
idea.
our history. And that's what
No
I
idea.
love. I love a book that makes me aware of these pieces that happened
Mhm.
that I just have no idea are part of our history.
Yep. And there's all sorts of lovely, stuff in there too that I didn't even scratch the surface. So
Oh,
yeah,
of course, which is why we have to read the
I
book.
know.
Oh my gosh. So, when you're talking about all this, it can be really easy to get like so up to here in the history. How do you know which details you need to include so it feels real, it adds the texture, and when you need to pull back because you have that whole binder, you have that whole row of books, and how do you know when you're like, okay, enough, Janyre, stop?
My editor tells me it's enough. No, I mean, seriously, I mean, there is some of that. But my first drafts tend to be very heavy in history, and just the texture and the cultures and all of the things. And then I go through and go, that actually doesn't do anything for the actual story or the character, so it has to go. And then I save it in a little folder
Hmm.
for use when I, start promoting a book and I'm like, "Hey, did you know?" And I get to use all these crazy facts that never end up in a book. Or you do what I did and you end up writing a novella that has some of
Yeah,
it in it. I mean, oh, why not?
exactly.
You know?
Because then you can use it and still have fun with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and readers can get exposed to it too.
exactly.
I love that. So you've got this scenario though, where you've got these sisters who are like on completely opposite sides,
Yeah.
like completely opposite sides.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that relationship? Because sister relationships are hard enough as it is
Mhm.
in real life. And then
Mhm.
you add this, you've got history, you've got jobs, you've got, I mean, they're like diametrically opposed in every way possible. So is this a vengeance novel, a justice novel? What's going on here?
So to me, a lot of it is a question of not right and wrong, because I don't think it's that black and white. But it does like
Yeah.
raise a lot of questions about what do we do in real life situations, when we're confronted with somebody that thinks differently than we do, and the same event. So it's the same event that causes the sisters to go opposite ways is it's a horrific moment for both of them, and they react totally differently. Um, but they still care about one another and they still love one another and they still are willing to have conversations now. They
Hmm.
went through a decade where they did not talk, they did not have conversations, they did not come together, and then they're thrown into this situation where they're forced to choose between what they think is right and their sibling and what's good for them. And there's a lot of questions that come up in that. And there's a lot of these questions of, there's a moment where my primary main character is Nora, the older sister. And then her love interest is Theo, who's also works for the museum in a slightly different job, than Nora. And they're talking about, um, what love is and the fact that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what courage is, and courage isn't necessarily, and everybody's like, courage isn't necessarily not being afraid, but stepping into doing the thing still afraid, which we all know. But then just the idea of a lot of times people who try to make peace are seen as weak in our culture, and that's not necessarily the case. And and there's a moment I'll quick read it to you because it's one that I marked.
Oh, yay.
It's like this pivotal moment, and she's like, Nora is saying, sometimes peace only happens after you step into the world of the enemy. Weakness isn't being kind or careful. Weakness is refusing to admit you don't understand and then
Mm.
refusing to try. Weakness is giving into fear.
Yeah.
And that right there, the fear is so much, what leads to this hatred, this not being willing to engageness.
Yeah.
Because you can agree to disagree with somebody if you are willing to see them. And that's a lot of what this book is about is seeing people and engaging, and being willing to step into hard places and being okay with it not being neat and clean. Because life isn't neat and clean. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
Yeah.
It never feels like it's just this or this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And everybody wants it to be, but it
Yeah.
just isn't.
This is it.
Yeah.
And then what do you do?
Yeah.
And that's what this book is talking about. It's digging into what do you do when and the mythological, structure for the book. Egyptian myth is really it's crazy. Like there's very little actually written, and there's very little continuity between the myths, and so you have these really random things that happen. But the story of Set and Horus is one of the most commonly repeated and consistent myths in the Egyptian stories. And Set is chaos, and Horus is order.
Mm.
And the Egyptians believe that you have to have both. And I'm not so sure about that. But the idea is that without, order, chaos is out of control, but without a little bit of chaos, order is a little stiff and legalistic, right? And
Yeah.
so it's this play and this pull between the two, and being willing to find a little bit of rhythm between these two ideas and concepts.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
Although I really like order. I don't
I
love
do
chaos
too. I
quite
do
as much.
too.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, God built into our world change. I mean, he built
Mhm.
in change of season, both like out in the natural world, but in our lives too. Like
Yeah.
I do not want to be a teenager. I mean, I
Nope.
don't know about you, Cara. I do not want to go back there, and so it's those changes of life and the fluxes that happen. And so I think about it in those terms to a certain extent too, that sometimes it's necessary, even if we don't like
I love that. So, was there a moment in writing the story that you almost gave up and went, I was insane to tackle this one?
There were many moments in this book. There were many, 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 many moments in this book, because it's not an easy topic, first of all. It's not an easy topic to wrestle with for myself. And then just working with characters that are very different from one another and balancing them in the book, and then weaving the myth into it. There was a lot of threads. I had a lot of like charts and things to make sure that all the threads were there, and pulling everything through. And yeah, so it's one of those books that's very twisty, which I am the hugest fan of twisty books. And so it's twisty, but all the threads are there. And I know they are because I like painstakingly went through and made sure they were. But yeah, this book, I had a lot of tears over this book, both like for my characters, but also for myself. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And the twisty ones where you have to chart it all out and then chart it again and then chart it again to make sure everything's there. And then you're like, thank God for the editor who triple checks and makes sure it's all there.
Yes, Lene is my editor, and the fantastic thing about it is she loves Egyptian myth almost as much as I do. She might love it even more, actually. So she was perfect because she was able to help me check that side of things too, and make sure that I was being accurate there, which was important to me.
Absolutely. So, is there, as this book is getting out into the world,
Mhm.
and as book clubs are going to find it and start reading it, is there a question that you would love to be sitting in the background of book clubs and listen to them debate?
So I think it really does come down to this idea of, the love, hate, indifference, peace. I think they're all kind of rolled into this one little ball, and pulling that apart and having people start having real discussions about what finding peace looks like, and how we can contribute as individuals to a better world out there. And I
Yeah,
know that sounds like pie in the sky to some extent. Um, but I appreciate I appreciate more questions asked than answered, because it gives me a deeper insight into people's hearts. And for those who are familiar with how Jewish rabbis teach, they teach in questions, not in statements and answers. And so I would love to have just real conversations about, how do we move through this? How do we agree to disagree? What does that look like? How do these characters do it well? What would you do differently? Um, because each of the characters approaches it from a very different angle. Um, and I don't know that I ever say that one is right or one is wrong. I mean, there are people that don't make it to the end of the book
Yeah.
because it wouldn't be my book if somebody did not make it,
See their
if they
demise.
were, yes, there we go. If they did not find a demise in there. So yeah.
Okay, so real quickly, 3
Mhm.
words to describe your book.
3 words to describe my book. Okay. So I would say mythic, very twisty. And then either like noir or gothic. Those are real closely
Mhm.
related words. But yeah, I love that kind of smoky, noir, gothic-y flair to books.
Yeah. And is there a trope that you embraced as you were writing this one?
Um, well, so there's the whole heist thing.
Mhm.
So if you think of like if you're familiar with the Maltese Falcon,
Yeah.
old school, that is like a very perfect kind of vibe for what this book does.
So that kind of answers the next question.
Oh,
Readers who love X will love this. So readers who love the Maltese Falcon?
they do. They would. Just like that cat and mouse suspense, there's a lot of pursuit and power shifting and blurring lines between who's being hunted and who is actually the hunter. And so that cat and mousey feel is definitely Maltese Falcon. It's definitely this book. Yeah.
Now your favorite line.
Oh, my favorite line. So I read part of one, so I get to read you the other one. Let's see. Um, Oh, this is not it though. Haha, I marked one that wasn't it, so I'm going to read it. I found it earlier and put it from my document and put it in my thing. So I will read you the romance part of this
Ooh.
because there is romance in here. And okay, so a little bit of setup. So this is between Nora and Theo, and both Nora and Theo are very much involved in the art world. So um, everything that I do is very involved in who the characters are as themselves. So they are, um, Nora is basically like, she doesn't feel seen very often and she feels a lot less than, and she feels very rejected a lot of the time. And so he's like, "You're amazing. What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Me? I don't see like any of the big magazines, fashion magazines calling me." And he goes, "And who says those rags are the paragons of beauty? Me, I prefer a woman who might have emerged from under Monet's brush or once hid in Degas' bronze, waiting to be released from the mold. Somehow less solid than a photograph, shifting while still managing to be real and arresting when you take in the whole impression. You, Nora Marquette, are curious and determined and celestial like Monet's lighting. And I love that you know how to make everything work smoothly when I'm all ideas and flashy nothing. And when you do that, he glides his thumb over where she'd bit the edge of her lip. You'd make even the most devout man bend his knee in supplication."
Oh, that's beautiful.
So he is a super softie for the most part.
I love that.
So,
All right. So where can readers go to learn more about you and your books, including The Scorpion Thief?
so you can always come to my website, and as long as you can spell my name, you can find me. So it's JanyreTromp, and that is my web address. So janyretromp.com. That is also my handle on pretty much every social media. I'm available on Amazon. Any bookstore should be able to order The Scorpion Thief. Yeah, so I'm super excited.
That's great. Thank you so much for being with me today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, everybody, for listening.